Cool, man. Well, I'm ready. I'm ready to do this. Let's
All
hit
right.
it up.
We shall get started. Welcome, Ashton. Uh, so I met you, after you watched our podcast with Kurt, right?
Yeah, I know. I saw the cold storage coin guys. I've been working with those guys for a while, and I was super excited when I saw Daxia. And I love other groups that do podcasts and produce video content, audio content, whatever they can, because content is king. So I thought, hey, I'd reach out and look at this. Now we're here, and there's lots to discuss, and I'm super excited to be on the show. So I really appreciate you guys inviting me.
Yeah. So I guess we can start with the thing up in the top of your screen. So can you tell us what Event Chain is, real fast?
Definitely, yeah. So Event Chain is our main project. We are putting tickets onto the blockchain and essentially turning them into, digital scarce form of money. So if you send a ticket to somebody, then you can't send it to everybody else. And we can have one ticket only, and then you can always check your ticket on the blockchain. We're actually currently using the GoChain blockchain instead of Ethereum, but we can dive into that a little bit later. But imagine you're on the street and there's a scalper. They're trying to sell you a ticket for a concert that's just happening. And most of the time it's somebody you don't know. It's a sketchy ticket. Imagine having the ability to check on your phone on the blockchain that ticket and see, oh, it is a real ticket. And then be able to know that before you buy it, and then be able to go in without having any worries. That was really the goal that we were trying to solve, along with a lot of the other problems in the ticketing industry. And it's been going great. We're already selling tickets internationally since late 2018, and the project's really flourishing. And I hope that it brings a lot more information about blockchain and cryptocurrencies to people that are in the mainstream that don't know about this technology yet. And what better way than to put it into events that have tens of thousands of people.
Nice. Yeah, it seems like ticketing is a perfect fit for blockchain, smart contracts, and that sort of thing. So this is my first time meeting you. And I'm hearing that you've successfully started up a company in blockchain. So what was that experience like? You're in the middle of that experience still, but I'd be curious to hear about how you started up, what it's been like in the early stages, and sort of where you see the overall market. Is the world ready for all these blockchain startups? Is the market there for it? Like, these are really great ideas. I think your idea is like essential, and it will be a main thing when blockchain sort of takes over the world. But
we're definitely still in the early stages. You're right. And any startup is tough to do. It's all about who you have in your network and the team that you have surrounding yourselves. And you're right about the timing, right? So there's definitely a lot of, in terms of the timing, a lot of things going on in the ticketing market that are problems that artists are speaking out, celebrities are speaking out, governments are starting to put in legislation for ticketing. So it definitely is the right time. But whether it's the right time to bring blockchain to the mainstream, it seems we keep getting delayed by this, mainstream integration into blockchain, either through primarily would of course be through the financial systems, right, and the ETFs. And you guys are working on derivatives, which is great, when that would hopefully spread more awareness to the industry. But yeah, it's been great. Thankfully, I co-founded the company with my father, and my father has been a tech entrepreneur since the 90s. So he knows that these are a lot of work, and thankfully he's brought in a strong team that's already been working with him for almost 10 years. So that really helped us accelerate the growth. We managed to produce a product in 12 months. And I've had a lot of mentorship from a lot of the older business people that are involved with our company. And it's made it a lot easier, but it's definitely, any tech startup is hard, right? So thankfully I've had a good backbone on the project, and together we've had a lot of success so far.
Yeah, I mean, when did you guys launch?
So we originally wrote the original white paper for Event Chain in April of 2017. So it's nearing 2 years here. And we've been involved with the blockchain industry since before the Ethereum ICO and during the Ethereum ICO. And I sort of watched Ethereum go from, 30 cents to $10 to $20, back to 10, and then all the way to 1400. So I've been following it closely for the whole time. And of course, we decided to build the platform on Ethereum, but we designed it in a way that we weren't stuck building the core protocol on Ethereum, in the case that this is early technology. You never know what could happen. Ethereum luckily they're seem to be doing all right, but their Constantinople upgrades have been delayed. And will that scalability for the amount of transactions that are needed to sell out a large scale concert of 10,000 people within a few minutes? Today we're already starting to receive that kind of traction with Event Chain. Ethereum may not be able to handle that kind of scalability. And for that reason, we pivoted to GoChain, which is fully Ethereum compatible, but it's running a proof of reputation that's more scalable. Right now, it's about 1,300 transactions per second, but by Q2 this year, they should be up to 13,000. So it's very, very similar to Ethereum, and the coin is actually compatible with Ethereum wallets. Well, part of the way that we designed Event Chain is that we realized to bring blockchain to the mainstream, you don't want, now there's a lot of education involved, right? And we don't want to have everybody having to sign up for a wallet and get cryptocurrency before they can even purchase a ticket, because that's a huge barrier to entry. So we actually designed the system in a way that people can pay with their credit cards, and then all of the tickets are in a smart contract of that event, and we can change the ownership of the tickets from the organizers to the attendees, and they can reference them at any time, but they don't need to own cryptocurrency to have their ticket on the blockchain. And that's a major barrier, because find a room of 50 people that could all pay with cryptocurrency for an event, and I'd be impressed.
Yeah, well, I think this goes into
point.
sort of the fundamental crypto question here. A lot of debate has happened. Is blockchain, I guess, just sort of for the illegal goods, or is it going to be sort of more for other things as well? Because some people say that, oh, well, you definitely should only use the blockchain for things that are, I guess the primary use case is censorship resistance is what you hear. And then other people say, no, we're going to be using it for everything, including, ticket sales, and, websites are going to be hosted on Ethereum. So I'd love to hear what your opinion on that debate is.
Well, I think that it's definitely not necessary to have everything on the blockchain. And because of the transaction fees and gas costs of Ethereum and most of the other blockchains, they have computational costs, so that people don't put, a laborious amount of code on the blockchain and bog it down for other people, right? And part of it is about efficiency. So in a certain sense, we probably don't want everything on the blockchain. But at the same time, when you say, well, it's only used for censorship resistance and for, black market stuff, it sounds a little bit ridiculous, because there are a lot of tangible benefits to putting things on the blockchain, and, having that immutability so that things can't be changed for history's sake. There's a lot of use cases, specifically in ticketing. For example, if we had a ticket or we had a transaction and you had just a regular private database, that you would be able to go back and change any specific transaction and sort of forge that, but with the cryptocurrencies involved in verifying these transactions and having the blockchain, so that once the chain starts building up, it becomes more costly to change those previous transactions, provides that immutability, especially if it's a public company that's donating goods or something. You'd want to be able to trace those donations back to as far as you could without knowing that that company wouldn't be able to change those transactions for their own good, So I think that there's a lot of use cases for blockchain in many industries, and the black market's probably, a decimal of a % of that whole thing. So I really don't like the stigma behind that.
Yeah, well, I guess the big debate would be like, why would you use GoChain? Because, then it's sort of proof of reputation. It's not decentralized. I mean, you've heard the arguments.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, well, right now we're very early in the blockchain industry in terms of getting to this level of scalability that has mainstream adoption. And I always say it at every presentation that I make, it's a trade-off between scalability and decentralization, right? We could have the most decentralized blockchain that everybody in the whole world needs to validate the transaction before it becomes public, and it takes an hour a day to verify all these transactions, and like it's not usable, right? So at some point you need to have a trade-off where we're have some level of decentralization enough that there's a confidence interval that you can say, okay, with this, there's people in 36 countries that are verifying this, and maybe it's only, a few hundred people, but if it's distributed enough and there's arm's length, between these parties, then where's the line of what is decentralized and what is not decentralized, right? So it seems that right now we're in a need for a more scalable solution, and there's been a lot of in Bitcoin specifically, there's been all these delays and political arguments back and forth on how we should do it without making it decentralized, and it's taken 10 years already. So when will Bitcoin be able to do more than 10 transactions per second?
It's a store of value. You can
for sure.
No, and that's always the debate. I think moving forward, where that lands is going to be an interesting question.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I hear what you're saying, and it's what's better for the future of blockchain in the long run. Is it sort of striking a balance, in this way where, it's not some of these early solutions, if we want them to scale and be adopted and actually used widespread, maybe you have to make some you have to let go a little bit about how decentralized it is, and you can work towards expanding that, versus delaying over trying to have everything be perfect, which it just won't be.
That's a great point. And to further extend on that, the same reason that Binance and Bittrex and these centralized exchanges are popular and not Ether Delta is because of all the extra functionality and support that comes with partially centralized solutions. We need some centralized form of customer support, and you need that onboarding. Lowering the barriers to entry and onboarding is a lot easier when there's a centralized entity that's helping and assisting with that. And it would be great. I would love to have a fully decentralized system that runs on itself, and that where you're already using smart contracts, but to just eliminate the centralized party altogether, that'd be great. But it's pretty hard when somebody has like organizers in large scale events, they need to ticket really big events of 10 to 20,000 people, these sports arenas and stuff. If there's an issue with them scanning a ticket or them verifying a ticket, and do they have to go to the community support that's decentralized and wait for somebody who's not getting paid to just volunteer their time to solve that? No, this is a business that's running. They're using a ticketing system. They need to be able to have that support right away, right? So where do you draw the line in that?
Yeah, so I mean,
could you have a proof of work customer service where miners compete for the right to offer you customer support on your login screen or whatever it is?
Yeah, that's call centers proof of work. You just everyone in India is now a miner on top of event chain.
Well, that's part of the the consensus algorithm, is that the only reason that people are doing that really is because they're getting rewarded, right? So as we develop out these systems and make that into more of like a little microeconomy, it's very possible. But those dreams, I feel, are more than a few years away as we develop this out. So
in the meantime, people need a ticketing solution, that you could start providing and have right now.
Well, got it.
So what would be the centralized? Ticketmaster is the centralized version, right? fully.
Essentially, yeah. And, they have recently acquired some company called Upgraded that uses blockchain, but the people don't have a product, and I don't anticipate Ticketmaster to be using the product. But even just bringing in the ideologies of the decentralized, transparent, honest, kind of ecosystem. Right now, there's definitely some outcry about the excessive processing fees and opaque business transactions with Ticketmaster. They did have a lawsuit thrown against them and an investigation from the CBC guys, where Ticketmaster sort of gives their tickets away to the scalpers directly rather than selling them on the primary market. And when the tickets go on sale, you see on the website tickets on sale, but you don't know if it's only 10% of the tickets or 20%. It's definitely not 100%, right? So they were working with the scalpers to mark up the tickets right away and then take a profit from there, sort of double dipping on their transactions. So if they could even just bring in that more transparency, fairness, really fans just want to be able to go to events and see an artist. And I would love to be able to just go up to the artist directly and be like, here's $20 for your album, here's the money for your merchandise. But there's just so many middlemen that it seems like Ticketmaster and these guys are getting way more than the artists are getting. And they're not really doing anything but facilitating the entrance to go see the artists.
Yeah.
And that seems a little bit unfair to me and to a lot of people.
So from the artist perspective, this is a good thing. And how much interaction do you guys have with artists? Or and the reason why I'm asking that is, are artists themselves starting to catch on to the blockchain bandwagon? I think, I do hear some celebrities getting involved and being younger and having all this money. It seems like it makes sense for them to be interested in these type of riskier investments or new technologies. But so what's your experience working with artists and talking with artists about blockchain?
Yeah, no, it's been really good so far. And as you mentioned, the younger audiences, we've been focusing more on like indie musicians, electronic dance music, more of that, the newer generation. But still, with these mainstream artists, we've had like Adele, Ed Sheeran, Taylor Swift. Some of the mainstream top artists have been trying to do different things with their tickets so that it seems more fair. So it really is a solution that can be applied to everywhere. But as we are a startup, we've been focusing on the low-hanging fruit, and we've had a lot of traction. There's a lot of events that are already live right now on eventchain.io. There's, music festivals, there's art galleries, there's blockchain conferences, there's just networking and meetups. So it really is hosting a lot of different types of events. But we said, hey, these indie artists that are really, there's so many of vertical levels to get through a label and all of these things. And we want to try to, just as Spotify and these other, like YouTube has allowed artists to sort of propel themselves, we want to be able to have artists to propel themselves with actual events, right away, and not have to go through and get gouged by giant oligarchies that are controlling what the artist wants to do. And the artist should be able to represent themselves how they want. So
yeah, well, I know one of the big complaints, isn't it, that like bots sort of buy up all these tickets right away? How
definitely.
do you handle that?
Yeah. Well, we are working on that, and it's not just to do with blockchain, right? Of course, blockchain can't really stop bots, but there's other security measures involved as well. And our ideology behind this is that the organizers and the artists should have the autonomy and the freedom to control the tickets and control how the distribution is and whether they want it to be marked up or not. So we're not making the executive decision as the ticketing company whether this person wants bots to buy their tickets or whether they want to disallow markup of a certain percentage. It's their event. Go ahead and do what you want with your tickets, right? We're just here to facilitate the transaction and to help with that. But with bots specifically, we have other measures. We do have digital only tickets that are coming out, as well as smart QR codes. And with technology like smart QR codes, we can have the artist or the organizer set it so that 72 hours before the event starts, a QR code shows up on their digital ticket. But before that, it doesn't show up. So you're really disincentivizing bots in that specific use case where, you could buy up all the tickets, but you really only have 3 days or 2 days or 1 day before the event starts to be able to trade those and sell those off to other people. If you are buying a ticket for yourself, you don't care if the ticket QR code shows up an hour before. You're going to go to the event, you're going to get in, but you're really disincentivizing people that are looking to buy tickets specifically for resale by limiting that time frame. We also have other distribution methods and credit card tracking, IP tracking, things like that. If the artist wishes that they want to block, somebody buying 30 tickets, they have the ability to do that. And it's our, goal to just get the artist the freedom to choose how they want their tickets to be distributed and how fair they want it to be.
Yeah, it's super cool. So would you guys, I want to go back to GoChain. How do we convince you to get on Ethereum again?
Well, you know what?
The GoChain guys are really convincing, by the way. We saw them at, what was the Blockchain DC? They were all over that event. I was really impressed. They have really good marketing, and they can talk a great game for sure. I give them props for that.
There's definitely other solutions that are possible to scale Ethereum, maybe some side chains or settling after the fact. But imagine there's a concert and, Jay-Z's playing at a concert that has 25,000 people. There's going to be 20,000 people waiting at the computer for that 1 minute when the tickets open. And if we need to secure these tickets on the blockchain, all these people are going to be purchasing the ticket at the same time. We're going to need to have some kind of delay on the verification of the state of the ticket transferring to those attendees so that it doesn't break, the Ethereum network. It definitely won't be able to handle thousands and thousands of pings at the same time.
This sounds like an ICO.
It is very much like an ICO. Like every sellout concert is very similar to an ICO. Everyone's always trying to buy in, and there's always 1,000 people that don't even get in because it sells out.
Right.
So the reason that we actually chose GoChain, and I happened to run into them at Token Fest in Boston and a couple other conferences, is that it is very compatible with Ethereum, and you can literally run an Ethereum node and just switch the RPC endpoint, and you're verifying on GoChain. So it's not like I've done some major overhaul of the code.
Sure.
We've really just made a quick switch, and that's part of the reason why we did, because we were running during our MVP in August of 2018. We secured tickets on the Ethereum testnet, and we have the system fully functioning. And all we have to do is switch that RPC endpoint back, and we can go back to Ethereum. So we're looking at solutions that are more decentralized, and we would love to have the whole system more decentralized. But at the same time, not only when people are purchasing tickets is it like an ICO, but when people are being checked in to an event as well, you can imagine sometimes there's 10 gates with people that are checking in other people's tickets, and those people need to check in tickets every 2 to 3 seconds. And that's even then there's, a lot of people that you need to get 20,000 people in this venue within an hour or two. Those are transactions on Ethereum as well. So there's 2 points of, touching the Ethereum blockchain when we need to verify transactions. And I would love for Ethereum to be scalable enough to handle that right now, but it just isn't. So we're sort of playing the waiting game.
Have you seen other projects sort of considering moving over? This is the whole scaling debate in Ethereum is huge. So, like, how many projects do you think we're going to see? Like, what do you see, I guess, as the future of Ethereum now that you've been building on it for a year and a half?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because everyone's running sort of different, there's so many different industries running on Ethereum, and a lot of them, they have designed the platform in a way that is pretty decentralized, but it brings those barriers to entry, right? And we can go look at the top dApps on Ethereum on Google right now, and there's like, it's pretty, CryptoKitties. And we don't want to be the next CryptoKitties. We don't want to break the blockchain. But besides CryptoKitties, there's not a lot that are mainstream enough that they're doing tens of thousands of people within, like a ticket at an event. It's one of the only platforms right now that's, could do 20,000 transactions in an hour or two because you're checking people in. And because these other dApps they have some level of barrier to entry where you either need to have MetaMask or you need to have Ethereum or you need to have something before you even start the application. There's not a lot of usage, right? And so it goes back to, do you make a decentralized app and have barriers to entry and just hope that in a few years people will be accustomed to starting an app up and having to download all these extensions and have Ethereum before you can even check out the app? Or do you make like a hybrid centralized, decentralized system that allows more people to, use the app? But in our system, we really want to lower those barriers to entry and make it optional so that, say there's an event with 20,000 people and 19,000 of them don't know about Ethereum or they don't know about blockchain. You're exposing this technology to all those people in a way that they can see, that they can check their ticket and know 100% for sure that it's real always. There's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, I mean, how do you guys handle that? Do they have to download like the Event Chain app? And then, what handles the private keys there?
Yeah. Everything is handled on the back end because the attendees, they can pay with cryptocurrency if the organizer wishes, but if the organizer doesn't want to accept that volatility and exposure right now, then they can pay with their credit card. And that there's going to be at least one person that doesn't have cryptocurrency. And if they want to have the tickets secured on the blockchain, we've set it up so that on the back end, the tickets are in the organizer's possession of their account, and then it switches to the attendee's account. But at this time, we're controlling the private key of the ticket just in the back end of the ticketing system. So
do you
the person
create
has
a private key for, I guess, every single user, and then just have like a database with all of them?
Yeah, that's right. So we're running a hybrid between the blockchain and like GraphQL databases, and really there's not any funds being stored on those private keys. It's just a small ticket. Yeah, a token of the ticket. So there's not a lot of incentive to try to hack into the blockchain just to steal one ticket. You'd rather try to go hack into to steal all the funds that are floating around in other platforms.
Mm-hmm.
But we anticipate eventually having a wallet and exposing people to cryptocurrency addresses and being able to transfer funds and transfer the ticket around on the front end. But at this time, event organizers, they just know about events, right? They don't know about technology. And even just telling people that we're a blockchain event ticketing system, event organizers are like, well, what's a blockchain event ticketing system, right? They have no idea. I'm like, well, we're a trusted ticketing solution that uses technology to secure the tickets. And they're like, oh, okay. So even just mentioning blockchain is a bit early for event organizers, especially for concerts and stuff where they're not technology people, right? It's like the internet. The people that are tech people, they know about how the internet works, but nobody needs to know to go check Google and search for something. You don't need to know how the search algorithm works on Google, right? You just need to be able to go and search it and search something, or just buy a ticket and know that the technology on the back end is doing what it's supposed to do. And I think that's part of, the blockchain mentality and how these long-term visionaries see the blockchain, is that it's going to be further and further into the back end of things, almost like a mobile banking application. You don't know what languages that's programmed in or how the money's moving around. You just move the money, right? You just buy the ticket. Make it easy.
Awesome. Yeah.
Sure.
So I think, do you care if I loop back?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. What were you doing before Event Chain? How did you, you said you were into crypto for a long time before Event Chain. What was that?
Totally. So I was studying finance and accounting, really just for fun, because I knew I wasn't going to be an accountant, of course.
You're up in Canada, right?
I'm up in Canada, yep, on the West Coast. I was studying finance, and I've always been in technology. As my father's been an entrepreneur since the 90s, he gave me a computer when I was just an infant, And you know how they always see these infants with computers nowadays. That was me, but in the 90s. I was like the anomaly of the computer kid. So I've been on the computer. I did website development and internet marketing throughout the 2000s and 2010s. And then as I started working on finance, I knew that I was going to start a tech company, but I was just waiting for the right opportunity. And part of the reason why I actually chose Event Chain, and my father and me chose it together, is that I actually used to run an event production company that was called Shed Show Productions as well, which threw EDM shows. And as an organizer, I experienced issues with the ticketing firsthand. And I'm also a musician as well. So I've played, I do vocals and guitar, a little bit of piano, and I've played shows. And I've experienced as a fan, as a musician, and as an organizer, all of these issues combined with the, you know, the newsworthy celebrities reaching out about the unfairness and legislation coming in to try and make ticket scalping and counterfeit ticketing more fair. It only made sense that the blockchain is a perfect solution for this, and that's how Event Chain was created in 2017.
So you could totally relate to your customer, because you would have been one if you still were running that company. You totally get it. They say like the best inventions are ones that you invent to fix your own problems. You know? Exactly.
Yeah. And that it's actually the same goes for the president of Event Chain and the marketing director. They're all event organizers as well. Some, you know, fitness events, tech events, music events. And we've also all happened to experience buying a ticket and realizing that when we got to the gate that the ticket wasn't real. So we weren't allowed in the event. So, and that's a huge, you know, like that costs a few $100s. You get there and you spend your whole day, and then all of a sudden you're not even allowed in. Like that's a horrible problem.
That's the worst. That hasn't happened to me, thank God. But
so, yeah, so that really, you know, just to be able to solve that I hope that, you know, that would make many people happy, just knowing when you're buying a ticket that it's a real ticket. And if blockchain can do that, then that's great, right? So that's part of what we need to, part of the goal here.
I'm sure you've seen, so like, what was the consensus project with music, where, who is it, Imogen Heap, or pronounce her name?
Imogen Heap, yeah.
Imogen Heap, yes. What was that? That was a blockchain album?
Yeah, so they're really, you know, they're trying to use the blockchain, but because it's super alternative artists, those are sort of like the underground crypto kind of people that are trying to be like, hey, look, I'm using the technology. And it's a great step towards other people seeing, oh, well, you know, this artist can do it. I should be able to do that too. And I'm glad that, you know, Imogen did that. But it's, I guess we're just waiting for more artists to do the same, right? There's actually 3Lau and some other EDM guys were hosting a event on the blockchain as well down in California. And there's been a bunch of other ticketing companies utilizing blockchain that were blockchain startups from the beginning. A lot of them more in Europe and a couple of them in California. And really they're just flushing out that, you know, the same things that we're going through, you know, how centralized do you make the onboarding versus how decentralized, and how is that going to affect how many people are willing to go through these hoops to buy a ticket using cryptocurrency, or how do we put the blockchain on the back end? So it's a great first step towards showing that, you know, you can put music and events on the blockchain. And I hope that that paves the way for more artists and bigger artists to do the same.
Well, you know, I've just always been torn on the music and blockchain piece. Like maybe not the events, but you know, what was the original technology that sort of disrupted music? It was like Napster. It was like more freedom promoting. So you just upload it and then everybody can trade it around. Like that's what my vision originally for Ethereum was, is somebody uploads it to Ethereum once and now it's free.
Yeah, totally. And it's a little bit different than a ticket, right? Because, you know, with a ticket, you want to have that scarce digital resource, because I don't want to, you know, there's only so many people that can go to an event, and you don't want to have to pay for a ticket and then realize that the guy sold it to somebody else as well and they got in first and now you're not allowed in, right? So in that sense, you do have that digital scarcity. But with music, yeah, you have it on the blockchain, but you know, how scarce is it? can everybody, once it's up there, everybody can listen to it. And because, everybody in the world can listen to it and it's not a scarce item,
Right.
I'm torn about whether, you turn it into a scarce item and how much you can enforce the, paywalls behind music and videos and things like this, and being able to enforce, only the people that paid for it. It's going to be tough to see how that plays out in the coming years, and how other digital content goes onto the blockchain, and whether it will be free access or whether there will be paywalls, or even, what I'm excited about is micropayments for videos and music. Let's say that a song does cost $1, but you have a wallet that it can be pulled from. And if you only listen to, 10 seconds of it and you don't like it, you really pay 10 cents. A lot of people, if the price is right, they don't mind paying for things, right? Especially with micropayments. If nowadays, if you go to a seminar and it's like a 10-week class, you usually have to pay right up front. You don't know what you're getting into, right? So if you could turn that into a micropayment solution where you could watch the first video and then you realize you don't like it, but you're okay with paying for, 1/10 of the seminar, then albeit, right?
Well, this has been, I think micropayments has been like the blockchain use case from day one, that no one's really been able to implement. Because, even with ticketing, the idea like, okay, well, Ticketmaster charges an arm and a leg, and you could do the blockchain free version, but, like, how much are people willing to pay? Well, maybe a penny. I don't know. You could do micropayments on that. Makes sense. I just, everyone's sort of been talking micropayments, but no one's ever implemented a micropayments as far as I know.
Yeah, well, part of that is the scalability, right? Because it's easier to make one payment of the full amount rather than make 10,000 payments in a micro form, and maybe something like some side chain or some Lightning Network thing where people are just making IOUs between each other and they can sort of settle the full amount. But to have micropayments right on the blockchain, you have to confirm those transactions, and it just goes back to the scalability issue that we're stuck in right now. We can't really scale to a 20,000 person event because you need to do so many verifications of the transaction. You need to be able to bunch those together or use a sidechain of some sorts to be able to clear that balance just at the end and not have so much computational power being sucked out of the blockchain when it can't handle it right now.
Yeah, but I mean, would you consider that like a victory? Is there like any moral victory there if your company doesn't succeed in like, just reducing ticket fees? Because, that was like the one thing maybe Napster did was like, okay, well, Napster failed, but it pushed the entire industry towards jumping off that whole, you have to buy the whole album thing.
Totally. And it's definitely like a shift. And now you can just, listen to a song, and most people don't really buy full albums as much as they used to. And yeah, it's, lowering leveling the playing field, I guess you could say, and not being forced to pay for a ticket where there's a 30 or 40% convenience fee, an inconvenience fee, and being able to just have, a small fee, and it's reasonable for a business to take a small fee to develop a system that's easy to use and be able to facilitate a payment of a ticket really easily. Of course, you can't take nothing because you need to sustain some level of business and updates and customer support and all these things, right? But it's definitely, with Ticketmaster and with Eventbrite, starting to get a little bit high fees there. So it would be nice, and even just the transparency of the fees, right? And just to see, okay, what you're paying, and the organizer knows what they're receiving right away, and there's no hidden fees. That would be great. So, and our fees are very competitive with Eventbrite, Universe, and some of these major ticketing platforms. So to be able to be the ones that, can provide a sustainable business model at competitive prices, that when people purchase a ticket, they're more than okay with paying a small fee to process it and not getting ripped off, then I would love to see that happen in the industry, and it's already happening now.
Cool. Sure. I mean, but that I guess just leads to the other question, like every other project in Ethereum, the big question is like, okay, well, now how do you monetize a decentralized platform? Um,
Hmm.
you know,
Totally.
I know for years it's a little bit more centralized. But just
Yeah.
kind of being in the crypto space and starting them, like, where do you see all of these token models go? Because you guys actually have a token too.
There is a token, yeah. And I think really it's, the I've done a lot of ICO overviews and a lot of other videos on my YouTube channel where I take a look at
Yep.
projects and I look at their business models, and you see, is the business model that the token is going to appreciate? Because it's not really a business model, right? So especially if you have equity investors like we do, and they're looking for ROI and they're looking for returns and dividend, where's the cash flow if there's no business model? You're just putting millions of dollars into something that's going to run itself into the ground because there's no support, because there's no money. So at some level there, you need to have some kind of cash flow returning to the business for the services that they're providing, right? So it really is so preliminary with these utility tokens that people, it's just experimental. You're like, well, we're going to use the token for this and for this, and hopefully that makes a circular system where the token naturally appreciates. But really it's so early that not many people have made a system where the tokens have very legitimate utility that doesn't have high barriers to entry for the people using the system, but still allows the token to appreciate over time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good segue into your role as the crypto host of your show. Yeah. uh,
Yeah.
Whenever you're talking about all these projects you have on there, you've had probably 1,000 at this point or something crazy.
Yeah, it's been about 500 different videos, and I started the channel in 2014, but we've had everything from logistics to, healthcare and gambling and all these different industries. And it's interesting to see how you can almost throw blockchain into anything. And in, any industry that either has data storage or, some kind of transactions, which is every industry, you can apply it to. So in some ways it is applicable to everything.
Yeah, I mean, how do you tell the bad ones right off the bat? Whenever you're talking to them, like, what's a key
Yeah.
bad indicator?
Well, regardless of blockchain or not, you can slap blockchain on something and it doesn't make it legitimate, right? So just as a traditional investor would, you look at primarily the team, the why now, the business model, and business model is usually pretty weak on the blockchain ones, but there are a lot of people that have legitimate teams and they've been in that niche industry that they're trying to integrate blockchain into for a long time, and it's possible for it to work. But that's part of the reason that Ethereum got a bad name, is because people could see that this fundraising model, you didn't have to do as much due diligence as like a traditional equity raise, so you could try and do things quickly or cut corners and still raise a bunch of money without as much due diligence. But I spoke with hundreds and hundreds of VCs throughout this project, and they have weeks and weeks and weeks of due diligence before they even want to write anything, any sort of check. So whereas with this business model at the ICOs, you could just get regular old teenagers that are like, I'm just investing in this project because my friend did. It's like, well, what does the coin do? I don't know. Like, they don't even know, right? So it really right? What does Tron do? I don't know. My friend invested. So it's really just doing due diligence like you would as like a equity investor. You want to check out the team, you want to check out the history, you want to check out their roadmap and what they've done so far. And when I used to talk with Ian Bellina back in 2017, he pretty much just said, if there's no prototype, if there's no application already started before when the white paper's going on, then you have to have something, at least have some either capital from the team or some kind of development that's already been invested into the project to show that the core team is invested before if they're not invested in their own project, why should you be, right? So there's definitely a lot of use cases, and it's sad that a lot of projects haven't been able to make it through the crypto winter, even though they fundraised a lot. Some people that fundraised $15 million, had that depreciate into $2 or $3 million because when they raised it at the peak of the Ethereum price. And thankfully, EventChain had private equity investors that were not in cryptocurrency, and we were not exposed to that volatility after the downturn. So we have been able to continue our business. But a lot of people that only raised Ethereum, and they're not financial experts, they didn't hedge the risks of the exchange risks of Ethereum dropping 90%. A lot of people thought, we'll be able to last for 5-7 years, and now they're down to a 1-year runway. So, and that's
sure.
It's tough to have that foresight.
With your token, like, what would be like the lessons learned as far as like managing a token supply? Like, supply. Do you do any active price management on it? As far as buying and selling?
Well, because all of the lower cap altcoins, and we have an ERC20 coin, because those coins have a low beta to the market, they really just move with Ethereum and Bitcoin. And because the primary trading pairs are Bitcoin and Ethereum, then when Bitcoin and Ethereum go up and down, those coins go down as well, right? So it's pretty hard to defy those odds and have your coins stay up really high while Ethereum and Bitcoin are dropping. Like if altcoins drop 90% and Ethereum drops 90%, then that seems normal, because really the beta is like 1.0001, right? It's very hard to have your own market unless you have fiat trading pairs, and the primary trading is not between Ethereum and Bitcoin, but between fiat. Then you can have that differentiation there. But most coins, they go down, they go up, and there's nothing much you can do about it. We didn't really do any active price management on, the extending volume and things like that. The coin is trading on a few exchanges, and people are able to purchase it. And people are able to purchase tickets right now on EventChain with EventChain tokens, as well as other coins, if the organizer accepts it, right? We're not going to force the organizer to accept Dogecoin or EVC or Bitcoin if they don't know what that, they don't know a lot about even Bitcoin. So to tell them that we're going to take these small altcoins and people are going to pay with that instead of money, they have a business to run too, right? They have artists to book, they have venues to secure. If they just get paid in EVC tokens and then they have to go through the hassle of trying to settle that because they need to pay artists, then that's not looking good for the ticketing company to force an organizer to pay with something that they don't even know what it is, right? So we're not going to force them to accept cryptocurrencies, but we educate them and incentivize them to do so. And that's part of the, my ideology of why I created the YouTube channel, is just to educate people and inform them, not force them, right? And to bring that ideology into EventChain and say, hey, well, I want to teach you about cryptocurrencies, about blockchain. I'm not going to force you to use it. You can do your first event, just use your credit cards. Maybe you'll, accept Bitcoin on the second event. And, but to force those things out of the gate, there's no user adoption in forcing people to do things that they don't want to do.
And because you haven't hinged the use of your product or the business model around that token, have you found that the bear market hasn't had a huge impact on your specific company because of that?
Well, it's been pretty, in terms of the token volatility, it's been pretty equal to Ethereum right now. We are building out further incentivization and gamification platform that rewards people with EVC tokens for contributing to the ecosystem, either through support, sharing content, getting other people to buy tickets, things like that. But we really had to develop the primary ticketing platform with legacy features that allows for user adoption, things that Eventbrite and Ticketmaster have, like promo codes, affiliate tracking, all of these things that aren't blockchain, as well as securing the tickets on the blockchain. Because if you just have a blockchain secured ticket with no other functionality, then the people, really your customers, people in the cryptocurrency industry are 1% or less of your customers when you're running a ticketing business. And that's why you need to have experience in the niche industry that you're going into as well. So there's so many functions that are built into platforms like Eventbrite right now that organizers need to run an event. And because of all of these other things, we haven't finished the gamification part of the token yet, but that's coming. We actually have a huge platform that we're integrating into EventChain right now, which has huge benefits for social gatherings, messaging, broadcasting from organizers out to people that are at a specific event, and rewarding people with tokens and other points. And that's coming, but you really have to focus on the core business model first and generate cash flow so that the business can sustain itself.
Cool.
Yeah. Have you seen any uptick in the crypto usage since you started, as far as like from 2017 even, like do more people buy with crypto?
I think that it really depends on the market. And, you know, when Bitcoin was 20,000, people were spending Bitcoin on everything because they were rich, right? And those people that held on to that Bitcoin, and now it's down. Even people that, you know, I know that I've known for years in the industry that live, you know, every day looking at the charts, they don't want to spend their coins right now. Even though they have them, they believe in it so much, they know that it's going to go up. They'd rather spend cash right now and spend the coins later when they're appreciated. So, you know, even the hardcore people don't want to spend. So there's definitely been, because of our marketing efforts and because of my YouTube channel, I've also done public speaking at events, and I want to promote events, and I do interviews at events. So I try to help events overall. There's definitely been, because those events are usually associated with blockchain and cryptocurrency, and when we reach out to those kinds of clients, they are like, yeah, we would love to support a system that secures it on the blockchain because we want to support growing blockchain into the mainstream as well, right? So because of that, a lot of the early clients of EventChain were based around blockchain conferences and tech meetups, and they do want to accept cryptocurrency. So I would say, you know, even 10 to 15% of the events currently right now are accepting cryptocurrency. Maybe even though people are still paying with credit cards, to some extent, and some are paying with cryptocurrencies. But it's good to see that adoption. But I expect that as we get larger music festivals, concerts, they'll still be utilizing the blockchain part, which secures the ticket and makes it so that it's not counterfeit. But your everyday people are more so going to be looking for that convenience to pay with their credit card.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting because a few events that I've gone to where I've paid with crypto, people are like, "Oh my goodness, you're actually paying in cryptocurrency!" Like, I didn't actually expect anyone to send me some Ether on my wallet. And I actually hold some Doge just for that.
Nice.
Sending people Doge whenever they accept it.
Totally. Yeah, we have DogeCon coming up in Vancouver. We had one last year, and there's DogeCon 2020 as well. So
you're running DogeCon, or?
I'm friends with the organizers, so we're going to be promoting it. And at first, they had a bar there, and you know, everybody wanted to pay with Doge. And the girl she just worked at the restaurant, right? She didn't know anything about cryptocurrency, and she's like, "What's Doge, right?" And we're like, "No, we need to pay with Doge for our drinks because this is DogeCon." So eventually, we actually got it worked out so that we could pay with Doge. But it just shows that, you know, even the people serving. I'll get back to you on the specific date because they're just finalizing it. But I would love to have, you know, you guys and your communities down to Vancouver for that, because it was actually huge last year. And, you know, I'm hoping that we're going to have some big names in the space that are supporting it, because a lot of people do love Doge.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's a meme currency, and that's just, it fits so well because, you know, let's be honest, there's not a whole lot of use cases for wealthy countries, especially in the cryptocurrency space at the moment. So having it for fun is, you know, and furthering the tech is awesome.
Totally.
So yeah, I think we can begin to wrap it up, you know, with you know, the one thing I was trying to get at with your earlier question, do you have any sort of political ideology in this? You know, I know with Dogecoin, you have your more libertarian leanings that
wrap it up with politics.
Exactly.
Oh gosh.
We're gonna ask a Canadian about his politics. You know, did you get into this, I guess, in 2014 for any sort of political reasons? You know, was it like, you know, I got in with the Ron Paul 2012 campaign, and then I actually saw that, you know, you just interviewed Ross's mom, right?
Totally. Yeah. Well, you know what? Nothing super political, but more just fairness and leveling the playing field, and, you know, being able to see how this technology is even disrupting, you know, on a global view, Southeast Asia, Asia, and places where people are able to be included into a financial industry that normally has high barriers to entry. I'm all about inclusion and having everybody involved, and, you know, being able to send millions of dollars of ether for, you know, 10 cents across the world. You know, there's obvious value in that, right? So something like that is just the use cases. That's just one thing, right? There's so many other use cases for this technology. To be able to support it from the beginning and try to bring it to the mainstream, that was really the reason why I got involved. And I just love technology as well. So, and learning finance, you know, I like finance, and I like running companies and providing value to people through services. So sort of the combination of those things definitely will be in this industry for a long time, and hopefully we can push it to the mainstream in the coming years here. And the sooner the better. We'll see, you know, the institutions are starting to get involved in the last 12 months, and I expect that will also leak into the media and people will get involved, and hopefully we're doing our part through this video and through our other channels to spread awareness about the crazy benefits that this technology has.
Hear, hear. Well, thanks for sharing that with us, and thanks for being here and having this conversation. Speaking about our other channels, where can people go and find out more about what you're involved in and in your show? Let our listeners know where they can find out more about you.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, I just did an interview with Nick, and it's on the Crypto Coin Show. If you just search Crypto Coin Show on YouTube, you'll see our recent interview and many other interviews. I've recently interviewed, you know, the founder of Elastos, Dash, some of the bigger sites. So we get an insight into those projects. And of course, if you're looking to go to an event and pay with cryptocurrency, or just check out, really right now we have a hub of blockchain and crypto events. Eventchain.io is where you can see that, and feel free to set up a free event. You know, anything that can be posted on Meetup can be posted on eventchain.io. If it's a free ticket, it's completely free, and you can ask custom questions. You can, you know, export your data for making little blockchain groups and things like that. So I love to support, and we do promote people's events if they're in the tech space when they post them on EventChain. So, or just reach out to me, Ashton at cryptocoinshow.com, and I would love to talk to you guys about another project. And I really appreciate you guys having me on today. So thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thanks, Ashton.
Thank
Good
you.
times. All right. See you.